Hi guys, Terry here. Hey, I recently had somebody ask me how to get started scrapbooking. And I think that question is, it's a little tough to answer. So I'm going to take it a piece at a time here and tell you how I started scrapbooking. And hopefully it helps you in your scrapbooking adventure. So when I first started scrapbooking, there was a store in Westerville, Ohio here. And I took a class, and I vividly remember the teacher explaining to, pick 6 to 10 pictures for your 2-page layout. And the idea was that we were going to have a title, we were going to have a spot for journaling, and then we were going to sprinkle our pictures on there and decorate the page. So in a nutshell, that's what scrapbooking is. And then there's so many things to tell you about it. For example, when I started, I had buckets of pictures, right? Do you remember that we would print the pictures and we would get double prints? Oh my gosh. So I would say that if you are getting started, hopefully if you're a younger person, you just have all your pictures like on a digital platform, right? You've got them on your phone somewhere, you've got them backed up, and that's awesome. But many of us started with the pictures, the old prints of years and years ago. So, here's Easter 2000, right? So what I did was I went around the house and I pulled together all my photos. And then I started you can see here, just a piece of paper around it, and I wrote down what the subject was. So sometimes I knew what it was, sometimes I didn't. Like the kids' school pictures, some of them I had dates on. I was terrible about putting dates on things. So, some of them were a guess. But the kids' school pictures, I kind of lined them up by school year. And then I could kind of know when I would look at trips, I would go, oh, okay, so Brandon had glasses. So that had to have been this year. So, a lot of it was just piecing together those pieces. And that worked. So I think another thing that you have to decide is, what is your purpose for these pictures? So, for example, we had a couple of puppy dogs along the way here, and I wanted to make just a small book. This is an 8x8 of just, Ginger growing up. So I had when we adopted her, and then over the years I kept all of her dog tags. But this was a book that I put together just knowing that I was going to do her pictures of when she was a puppy. So you can see that I've decorated the pages with just a little bit of pattern paper, because I think that's what makes it different and stand out from just one of those books that you pop the photos into. So it is about decorating the pages, but you've got to keep in mind it is about the photos. You're telling the story. So this was a book that I put together for one thing. It was just for Ginger. So I think the other thing you have to decide is, are you going to do a little book or a big book? So after I did her puppy book, I went ahead and did her, this was a 12 by 12 album that I did for the puppies. And this was just over the years, right? So both dogs had their baby books, but then they had their big girl books here. So this was just pages that I did over the years. And again, you can see I love to use pattern paper, and then I love to arrange the pictures on here. A lot of time when you're using busy paper, it's a good idea to mat the photos so that it just stands out from the pattern paper. And decorating your pages will come with time. It's just things that you learn along the way. And you'll just get better and better at it. I looked at a lot of magazines to get ideas, copy things that way, and there's just a lot of things online that you can do. There is some styles of pages. Let me show you the different styles. And by styles, I mean methods that people have come up with. For example, This system here is called Mosaic, is a large grid on the 12 by 12 paper, and the idea is that you can fit a lot of pictures on it. So instead of just having your pictures be, 3 or 4 of them on a page, this is a way that you can put a lot of pictures on it. So you can buy the grid paper and trim your photos down, or you can buy their grid. They make the grid now so that you can just put this on your paper and then trace and make the lines. So that's pretty handy. Back in my day, we had to buy the paper. Now you can just simply buy this grid one time and then draw the squares on. But let me show you a sample of this grid. And this is one of my most favorite ways because I do love to have a lot of pictures on the page. So let me find one here. Here's one. So this is the grid. So you can see that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pictures on there. So I've trimmed down. I printed them at 4 by 6s, but then I trimmed down, what I didn't need in the picture, but I kept enough to still tell the story. And then I had room for a little bit of pattern paper on it. So isn't that cute? I just had a little strip here, and then I sprinkled my stickers on it. So it's just a fun way to squeeze a lot of pictures onto the page there. So I've got videos on how I do these mosaics because there is a trick to sizing your photos so that they fit in those squares. But boy, it goes together really quickly. So that's called Mosaic. So we talked about the purpose of your album. This one here is a cruise that Steve and I recently took. And when you take a long trip, a lot of times you'll have a lot of photos. So that might warrant its own album for that trip. If you don't have a lot of pictures for a trip, I usually summarize them into a 2-page and I just put it in our family album. But this album here, I did using Simple Pages. So Simple Pages is a system that Simple Stories came up with. And their idea is to take your photos and arrange them using these grids. So, for example, one of my favorite ones to use, you can see the 3x3, the 2x2s, but I love this one. So here it is, the 4x6s, so you don't have to trim your photos down. And then usually on those 4x6s, there's a couple of them that you can trim down to be 4x4. There's enough of the picture that you can trim off a little bit and make it a 4x4. So this is a popular size. Let me show you some sample pages here. So these here, now this one is the 4x6 and the 2x3. But again, I could use my pattern paper, which I love, and then I could cut the mat the size of that grid from the Simple Stories and then simply glue my pictures down. So this book went together really, really quickly because that's what I did on every page. You can turn them depending on how your pictures, if they're portrait or landscape. So, I just picked coordinating papers. If you buy a set of paper, one of these collections by a designer, usually the pages the colors will all go together. So you can see where this one, I was able to just quickly mat the photos on that grid, put the tape down, pop the pictures in. And then it's just a matter of sprinkling some embellishments and, either brads, buttons, ribbons, stickers. I mostly use stickers now. And then I do try to, this one I didn't do a good job of journaling, but it is something I could go back and add. I could even write on the grid. But yeah, this was a trip that we took. Here's the 3x3 one. And you can see where I did pattern paper and just add a little something to it. So I love that that style. So that was from Simple Stories, and it's called Simple Pages. and they just have a whole series of templates that you can use. So here I've written down which ones I've purchased just to keep track of them. And I just keep these in a folder, and I have these with my, I take these when I go scrapbooking. So I've got those simple pages with me. So love that method. I'm showing you these different methods not to overwhelm you, but I do want you to know what exists, right? There's just so many different methods of decorating your pages. So this one here, so Kiwi Lane is a company that came up with these different curves. I call them curves. And the idea is that when you've got your layout and you're deciding where you want your pictures to be, another thing you can do with the pattern paper is simply layer some of these curves. So we buy this beautiful pattern paper, right? And then it's always hard to know what to do with that pattern paper. So the idea is that you trace this with a pencil on your pattern paper. You make a piece that's this pattern and a piece that's this pattern, and then you lay this along the sides of your layout. You can do it along the bottom, along the top, along the sides. So it's just another way to add a little bit of colored pattern paper to your layouts. So you could do this over here and then do the same thing over here, and you'd have those pattern papers. I tried to find an example. I couldn't quickly put my hands on an example of this one, but I think you get the idea. It's a way to put those pattern papers on. Now, before Kiwi Lane came along, Creative Memories had kind of come up with that concept, because they came up with these rulers where you put your pattern paper in here and then you cut it, and you can see that this one has a deep wave and this one has a shallow wave. And it's that same concept of cutting two pieces of pretty pattern paper and then layering it on your page and just having a little pop of color that way. So, so this is from Creative Memories, and this is Kiwi Lane, and they have a bunch of different sets that you can collect because we are collectors, right? So I love that method too. I've learned my style is more of a straight line, so I do less of the curves, but it is a great way to add a splash of color. So love that way. So one other thing that I'll mention is Creative Memories has, last year they came up with these page kits. And the idea behind the page kit is you get 3 pieces of paper. You get 2 pattern pieces of paper and then a piece where you cut apart the pieces, and then they show you a sample layout. So the idea is that it's very economical to buy the paper and then some stickers. Coordinating stickers come with it. And it's just a very nice way to get you jump started, right? Because that's the struggle. So here you can see that the background paper had this on it already, and then we added this strip and then some of these squares. That was the cut apart piece. And I've got videos that show how these kits go together. But it's so cute that it's got the stickers with it and the paper, and then also the instructions on how to put it together, and then a wonderful sample of how your page can look. So I think when you're first starting out, to start with some kits, I mean, that's how I learned. I bought some kits, and it just showed me how to, it's basically a lot of layers. That's what's adding color to your page and making it look fancy. And you don't have to make it look fancy, right? It's about the pictures. But when you're ready to take that next step and you want it to be, you know, something that you're proud of and that you have spent a lot of time on, you know, you want it to look nice. So, so just to review, I would suggest that you pull your pictures together, you know, somehow get them organized. You can see here, these are ones from me growing up. I haven't done these yet. I've done my kids' albums. So I do mean to do these. I just haven't dug into them yet. And, you know, because life is busy and life is going on with my kids. I started with their school books, and now they're married and having kids and everything, and I'm still keeping their books going. So I love doing that. I love scrapbooking the trips that Steve and I take, and I just haven't gotten to these ones yet. So I've got to set aside some time to work on these older ones. But yeah, pull your pictures together. You want to decide if you're doing an 8 by 8 album or a 12 by 12, or, you know, what is going to be the finished product that you're putting together. And then it's just a matter of, you can go to a scrapbook store and they'll have paper and sample layouts, and you'll get inspired. And then you're going to need some good tools. So you're going to need a good paper trimmer. I do like the Creative Memory one. Stampin' Up! Has a good one. But buy a quality trimmer. You'll spend a little bit more for a name brand trimmer, but it'll be worth it because you don't want the blade to wear out. And then I also do recommend having a separate trimmer for your photos. So it's just handy to have a nice small guillotine one for your photos, and then one for cutting paper. It'll just help the blade. It really wears the blade out to cut your photos with this, although it's certainly possible. If you're just starting out, you don't know whether you're really gonna, you know, go full-time into this scrapbooking business, you know, certainly you're going to need a trimmer that can cut 12 by 12 paper. So that first, and then think about having a photo trimmer. And then you're going to need some type of good adhesive. So Creative Memories has a tape runner that's refillable. And then I also like the Tombow. Here's the Tombow refills. They're very similar. The idea is that you've got, you know, 30 to 40 feet in here, and then you can pop this cover off when it's done and put the new one in. So tape refills are really helpful. And then some type of, you know, small set of scissors. I've got Fiskars ones. You want something that has a non-sticky surface, and I've just had these Fiskars ones for years. I also have the Creative Memory ones. There's a small one and a medium one, and they fit underneath this new photo trimmer. But like I said, you don't have to get fancy yet. You know, start out with the Fiskars if that's what you want to do. The Tombow refills are very economical. But it doesn't take a lot, right? It's about the pictures and getting them in the album. So don't spend a lot of money on how you're going to store your paper or store your photos. The idea is that you want to get them into your books. So, you know, I see people getting all fancy with organization and stuff, and that'll come over time, but it really is about getting the pictures inside, inside the albums. So, so I hope this helped. I hope this wasn't overwhelming. I wanted to show you kind of, you know, some ideas on where to get started. I will also say that I've done my albums chronologically. I use the Creative Memory albums. I always tell people, start by creating your pages, because if you make your 12 by 12 pages, you can decide later what albums you're going to put it into. 12 by 12 is a standard size. I love the Creative Memory albums because they hold up so well. Some people like the 3-ring notebooks because it holds a whole bunch of pages. I don't like how the pages flop around in it, but those are top-loading pages, and they work well for people. So, yeah, I do my pages, and then I slip them into the Creative Memory pages. So I don't have these glued down, because if I would happen to find, you know, something that happened before this, I can take these out and scoot the pages back, or I can take the album apart and insert some pages. So, yeah, so I hope this gave you some ideas. I hope it inspired you to start scrapbooking, and kind of gave you a little a little bit of where to start, because there's a lot to learn when you're first scrapbooking. So good luck. Pull your pictures together. Put any questions down below that you have, because I know I went over a lot of stuff. And I wish you well. So I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.